Hello, everyone, and welcome to our last day of Inspire workshops. If you guys don't know, I'm Judel03, and I am so excited to introduce our next speaker today. He is known by many names, but you guys might know him as MiniToon. Oh, where did MiniToon go? Is he there? Oh,
Ahoy, everyone!
ahoy!
Ahoy! I'm here. How's it going, everybody?
I hope
So,
everyone.
I'm
Well, sorry.
no. Go on.
I hope everyone's doing well. Like I said before, today's our last day of Inspire workshops, and we have MiniToon here today talking about storytelling. How are you doing today, MiniToon?
I'm doing fantabulastic. How about you?
I'm doing well, thank you. I know it's a little early for me, but I've got my coffee, so I'm ready to go. Yeah.
Awesome. I don't, but I've got my energy. And that should be good enough, hopefully.
And you know what? That's better for sure.
Alrighty. So, shall I get started?
Yeah, take it away.
Sweet. Well, okay, everyone. I'm MiniToon, and welcome to my workshop on enhancing gameplay through storytelling. So we're going to go through this little agenda that I set up here. So we're going to start with who I am, as well as the importance of storytelling and gaming, the elements of stories, and storytelling in action. And then, of course, last but not least, we'll go do some Q&A. So first, some quick introductions. So my name is MiniToon. My parents gave that name at birth. I'm mostly known for Piggy, but I've made other lesser-known games such as Assault, Containment Breach, or Spread Peace and Love through collecting the neighborhood's garbage simulator, or SPLTCT NGBS for short. I'm an old man as I've been on the platform since 2011. I've seen it grow and undergo the biggest of changes, just like myself. And I started out making free modeled games. Now, hear me out. I was just a kid using them as a learning resource, which they're very useful for, as well as a tool to be able to create my own stories on Roblox. I've always enjoyed playing games and experiencing their stories and doing whatever I can to learn more about them. So now I want you guys to take a moment to reflect on a question and ask yourselves, why do you play games? Is it for a challenge to test and improve your skills? Could it also be for achievement, to accomplish goals and earn rewards or satisfaction? Or is it to relax and unwind after a long and unforgiving day? Maybe to escape the real world and slip into a fictional one to immerse yourself in it. Maybe the answer is even more simple than that, and you just want to entertain yourself. Sit back and have fun, either by yourself or with friends. So, why am I asking this question, and what does it have to do with storytelling? Well, firstly, please put your pitchfork down, and secondly, everything, absolutely everything. Storytelling can complement, enhance, and even improve every player's experience with your game. Let's use the example reasons for why some people play games I just mentioned as well examples for how they can change up the experience. For instance, for those of you who like a challenge, a good story can challenge's purpose, as well as making overcoming them much more rewarding and meaningful. It can give a reason for these challenges, as well as a purpose to complete them. As a result, accomplishing them will feel like a greater achievement for those achievers out there. In addition, a good story allows players to fully immerse themselves in different worlds and experiences, enhancing the escapism and relaxation, depending on the context of your story, that your game would provide. And last but not least, entertainment. Now, there are countless ways to explain and list many of the different ways a story can serve to entertain players further, but since my time in this workshop is limited and most of them may be personal or specific to the individual player anyway, I think it's safe to say that it will, at the very least, increase player engagement and interest. So, let's see the impact and the difference a story can immediately make on our own game, Piggy. So, in normal Piggy, you are tasked with finding items and solving puzzles to escape or complete different chapters in the midst of an infection spreading. You meet other survivors, work with them to uncover the mysteries surrounding the infection and the world that surrounds it, such as figuring out what started it and what can stop it. Sounds interesting. So, let's take out the story and see what happens. Now, we've got a brand new innovative game coming out in 2020. We've got Piggy, but without the story. And Piggy, but without the story, get this. You find items and solve puzzles to escape maps. You also avoid monsters hunting you down throughout every level. On top of that, you also get to find items and solve puzzles to escape maps. Yeah, you can probably tell it doesn't sound as exciting as normal Piggy. Without story, you are left with so many questions with absolutely no answers to any of them, such as why are we escaping these maps? Why are we being chased by monsters? What is the point? That's the biggest question I want you to ask yourself. What is the point of the game? What is its purpose? Why does it even exist? What message is it trying to convey? Dying to monsters is bad, maybe? These questions can easily be answered by sprinkling in a little narrative. It can be as simple as telling a tale of survivors just trying to get by in the middle of an apocalypse, or as complex and as thorough as an analysis on the effects a situation like this could have on individuals and societies alike. Either way, I'm sure it could make for a very fascinating experience. So here's one more example. Let's take a generic match 3 game. In this game, all you do is match 3 symbols in a row in an order to get, more points and enough points to clear levels. That's really all there is to it. Pretty basic. So what can we do to make it more interesting, to make it more engaging and exciting? Well, if you haven't already guessed from what we've talked about before, it's adding in a story. So I present to you story-driven match 3 game. Suddenly, we give matching these 3 symbols a purpose. For example, you match crystals to cast magical spells and fight off armies of dragons to rescue a handsome, good-looking prince who is well worth the effort. Believe me, I know. Alternatively, matching these symbols could help you find hidden clues, which help unravel a mysterious crime. Maybe it could even be personal, like the disappearance of your pizza leftovers. I have a good feeling it was Tom that took him, by the way, that conniving son of a bun. With all of that in mind, I hear you now say, sounds great. Let's get started right now. Whoa, whoa, whoa there, but not so fast. There's some stuff we need to go over first before you dive right into adding your own story into your games. So let's put on your learning cap and let's learn the elements of a story. There it goes. They say dissecting things and pulling them apart makes them easier to understand. That didn't work for my friend Tom. However, it certainly works for the elements of a story when you take it one step at a time. We're not going to go through every single element of a story because, as it turns out, there's quite a lot. We're just going to cover the fundamental 5, as I like to call them. And if you're more interested in learning more, then I'd highly recommend doing some research afterwards, after this presentation. So from top to bottom, we have the setting, which is where and when the story takes place. We got the characters, which are the individuals who take part in the story. Then the plot, which is the struggle, or sorry, the sequence of events that happen in your story, not the struggle. The conflict is the struggle or the problem, which guides the onions, the plot. And finally, the theme, which is the sole idea or underlying message of the story. So let's go over each in a little more detail. So the setting is where and when your story takes place. It could be places such as a city in the 2010s or your grandma's basement. Or it could be completely fictional too, like a military laboratory such as the one in Piggy. The setting doesn't really need to stay the same and it doesn't necessarily need to change either. There are a variety of types of characters that you can include in your story. These are just the main ones that most stories will have. You've got your your protagonist, who is your hero and the main character of the story, who is almost always, if not always, the player. The story will follow this character, and as a result, your character will drive the story forward. Then you have your antagonist, which is the villain. In Piggy, one of the antagonists is, get this, it's unbelievable, Piggy. Shocking, I know. Then you have supporting characters, which develop the story further and support either the hero or the villain, or in some cases, nobody. As an example, here we have Zizzy and Pony, which help the player in Piggy find out who started the infection. Moving on to the conflict. So, in a story, the conflict is the central challenge or problem that drives the narrative. It's what keeps the plot moving and engages the gamer. The conflict usually involves a struggle between opposing forces, not forks, which can either be internal or external. An internal conflict is a conflict that happens within a character, such as a personal dilemma or a moral struggle. For example, they could be struggling with fear of losing someone or something, such as their wallet, or guilt about what they did on October 23rd, 2021 at 11:15 p.m. I know I don't regret that. An external conflict, on the other hand, is a struggle between a character and an outside force, such as another character, nature itself, technology, or society. In Piggy, registered trademark copyright, the conflict is the infection that ravages the world populated by animals. On to the plot. Do you recognize this pyramid here, or wherever it is? It's somewhere up there. This is called Freytag's Pyramid, and it goes over the essentials of the plot. This is the skeletal structure of your story and the map for which you could use to help structure your own story in a sensical way. Stories always start with some sort of exposition, which introduces players to the setting, the characters, and a basic situation, tying them together. In Piggy, for example, it all starts with you, the player, investigating the disappearance of Georgie from the Piggy household. As the player approaches the home, they run into Piggy, an infected creature. The infected are the main conflict in Piggy, as previously mentioned, and so this would be the inciting incident as it introduces the player to these infected monster thingy bobs. Oh my gosh, it's like I can't go a sentence without saying Piggy. The rising action develops the conflict further. In Piggy, that is again, the rising action involves the player meeting friends, losing friends, and trying their best to survive the apocalypse, whilst also attempting to uncover who is behind this bonkers situation. So, moving on to the peak of the pyramid, the climax. This is the turning point in which the story, with tension at its highest and the main conflict reaches its peak. In Piggy, Georgie is found, and he reveals that Mr. P, a character previously met in game, is responsible for the infection. What? What precedes is the falling action, which doesn't mean me falling down the stairs, although that happens daily, but instead the events leading to the conclusion or resolution of the story. In Piggy, the player confronts Mr. P in his research lab. Finally comes the resolution, or the denouement, which is the conclusion of the story by resolving the conflicts and tying up loose ends. Piggy the game doesn't exactly resolve the conflict of the infection, as I wanted to expand the story into a sequel. However, it definitely ties up the loose end and the question on everyone's mind, on every character's mind, to be more specific. Why did Mr. P start the infection? As it turns out, like most of my jokes, it was a complete mistake. He tried to develop a cure in order to save his wife from a disease, but accidentally started a world ending crisis as a result. It happens to the best of us. The player, after confronting Mr. P, leaves with his friends as they set off on a new journey to find or create a cure. So, lastly, moving on from the plot, is the theme. The theme is the central idea or underlying image of the story. It is what the developer is intending to teach or to convey through their work, and in our case, a game. In Piggy, the message is to not take everything at face value, to learn before you assume, and to seek answers yourself as opposed to getting them from others and just rolling with it. It's about perspectives and not judging a book by its cover. For example, at first glance, the infected might seem like mindless, soulless creatures wanting to take you out at all costs. But through hidden notes, you'll find out that behind the aggressive, ruthless exterior are characters with thoughts, ideas, aspirations, wanting to break free from this curse and regretting that they cannot control themselves. As for Mr. P, it is assumed throughout the story that he willingly and intentionally started the infection, thus giving us a negative initial perception of him, only to realize that this whole thing was an accident. He only had good intentions, yet his desperation to save his wife has caused many others to suffer as a result, ultimately filling him with guilt. So let me ask you this now to see who's been paying attention. Should I get a haircut? Wait, hold on. Those are the wrong notes. 1 second. What is the meaning of a theme in a story? Option A, the atmosphere or emotional setting of the story. B, the underlying message of the story. C, the way a place or setting makes the player feel. And D, the developer's attitude towards the subject or audience. So I believe there's a QR code somewhere below the questions where you can answer and win some words. So let's see if you can get them right. In the meantime, maybe I should play you guys some music. Do I have enough time? Do I have enough time? Maybe I'll have enough time to play one note, guys. Let's see. 1 second. Yeah, I'm working on it. I'm getting there. All right, perfect. Let's see if you guys answered the question right. Okay, here we go. Ready? So, if your answer was B, the underlying message of the story, you would be correct. Sweet. Now that we know why a story is important and how to properly make one, let's see some real-world examples on how some games implement their narratives. Here are some techniques, some of the many storytelling techniques out there. One of the most interactive techniques is player choice. So players directly influence the decision the decisions, direction, and outcome of the story through their decisions. There are commonly seen these. Excuse me. These are commonly seen in games with branching stories and offer so much replay value due to the varied experience one could have with each subsequent playthrough. Environmental storytelling is another common technique that uses the game's world design, objects, and setting to convey the story. Maybe there could be sketches in a prison wall implying that there was something desperate to leave, escape that cell. Or maybe lights could be off in a city of darkness, implying that someone could be inside that specific building that's lit up. Another technique is through the use of audio, which can enhance the atmosphere and the emotional tone of your game. Distant screams evoke a sense of dread, as well as convey to the player that, someone is in danger nearby. As you can probably assume already, horror games love this technique. Also, the more you use, the more effective your storytelling could be. For example, audio and environmental storytelling can combine to make a truly immersive experience for every player. Now let's talk about two different ways that games share their story and the pros and cons of each method, starting with games with clear, prominent stories. These are games where the narrative is central and prominently featured with a clear, structured storyline. The story is at the forefront of the game. Examples of this could include games such as the Telltale series, which are closer to movies or shows, although games don't need to prioritize story over gameplay in order to achieve this. The pros of having a game with a clear story are that it provides a clear narrative experience to the player, and as such, it is easier for them to follow along and connect with the characters. The cons, however, are that they limit player freedom and exploration, and may feel less immersive for players seeking more interaction in the world and their environment. On the other hand, you have games with more secretive, hidden stories where the narrative is uncovered through the player's own exploration. These games have the story told through the environment, items, or other means that the player may have to go out of their way to learn more about. An example of this type of game would be a lot of horror games where notes, Easter eggs, and other secrets are what reveal the story. The pros of types of games are that they encourage exploration and deeper engagement, as well as reward the players with a sense of discovery. Unfortunately, the cons are that it may frustrate players who prefer a clearer, more prominent story, and it may feel less immersive for players who seek more interaction. Piggy employs some elements from both types of games. It features like a prominent story and hides many secrets to keep both types of players engaged and curious to learn more. I'd highly recommend giving it a try, adding both a prominent story riddled with hidden lore. Your community will love it. All right, next question. One more question. This is the last one. This one may or may not be even easier for you. What is environmental storytelling? Is it A, conveys a narrative based on player choice? B, tells a story through live performances? C, conveys a narrative through sound? Or D, tells a story through physical surroundings and world design? What could it be? What do you guys think? Comment down below. Just kidding. Scan the QR code and answer for yourself. This isn't a YouTube video as far as maybe it is on YouTube. Maybe it is. Maybe it will be. Who knows? Either way, I think you guys got this one. Should I give you time to think? All right, I'll do it. I'll do it. All right, we good? Ready? 3, 2, 1. Ahoy! We're back. We're back. All right. So, if your answer was B, tells a story through live performances, you'd be pretty wrong. Sorry. The correct answer was D, tells a story through physical surroundings and world design. So, to wrap it all up and conclude this journey of a presentation, incorporating storytelling into your game design can significantly elevate the overall experience, transforming it for the better. By bringing together all elements of a story, such as compelling characters, settings, and engaging plot lines, you create a rich narrative experience that resonates deeply within players. The beauty of storytelling lies in its versatility. There are countless ways to integrate all sorts of different story elements into your game. Don't hesitate to experiment with different approaches and techniques to discover what works best for your game. So now you guys may finally get revenge and ask me questions. Oh, how the tables have turned. Do your worst! Just kidding. Please go easy on me, guys. Q&A,
There we
Q&A.
go. Amazing job, MiniToon. Let's give a round of applause for MiniToon in the
Thank
chat.
you.
I
Thank
will say
you.
I
Thank
was reading
you.
some of the comments. People were definitely scared by your jump scare. So good job on that part.
Excellent.
All right, we're gonna just kick it right off if you're ready.
I'm ready. Throw them at me.
All
Bring
right,
it
perfect.
on.
Our very first question is, if you ever experienced writer's block during your writing of Piggy or Iron Assault or another game, how did you overcome it? What advice would you give to others on how to overcome this writer's block?
By running away. No, I'm kidding. Uh, to overcome writer's block, that's a good question because I've had that a few times.
Mhm.
Something that really helps me is like honestly, this is gonna sound kind of rude, but I mean this like in the nice way possible because it works for me. Is like going outside. You know, not. I mean, you can touch grass. Touching grass is optional if you have grass in your area. But like going outside, just going for a walk through different locales and just, walking around, exploring your surroundings, traveling, anything like that will give you lots of ideas from like your environment around you. Like for example, when it came time for Piggy Book One, I was kind of like initially I was reading the story as I was going along, and near the latter end, I was like thinking where should I take the story? Where should it go here? And what I would do is I would just go on hikes and stuff and look at different parts of like my city, and I got like lots of ideas of locations and stories and characters just watching uh basically things just unfold before my very eyes. And I don't know, I think just getting some fresh air and getting a clear mind will definitely help out. I'm trying to think of any other ways that clear right. Reading other stories or um watching movies or TV shows, anything to get some more inspiration. See what other things like for example, right? If you're doing a horror game, play other horror games and see what they do. That will definitely give you some ideas and some inspiration on like things that like, oh, I like this or I don't like that, and that'll give you some ideas on what you can incorporate. Definitely explore other medias. Don't restrict yourself to your own brain because your brain needs to learn, it needs information, and kind of gather that information from other sources. So that's what I would recommend.
Yeah, I love how you brought up inspiration because this actually ties into our second question that we have for you. They
Ooh,
said,
okay.
"Ahoy, MiniToon! I'm curious to hear your inspiration for some of the characters and their backstories. I would love to hear your tactics for writing a good character to accompany a good story."
Ooh, that's tough. That's tough because I'm trying to think of some right now. Well, I guess one thing is okay. Well, as you guys probably know, if you've played Piggy, Mr. P and Willow are two of like the main antagonists of the story, and you'll realize that like they're more morally gray than actual villains. Like there's some except some cases they don't mean harm, they're just trying to do things because they think they feel like it's the right thing to do. And that kind of perspective element, it, it gives a character a lot more because like one-dimensional villains who are like, yeah, I'm evil for no reason. uh I think they aren't as interesting as characters who you can at least relate a little bit to, even if you don't really agree with them. I think adding like that whole new dimension where like you can explore the reasons why they're doing the things they are doing, that definitely helps a lot. I think that's something that um, is very interesting for characters to have kind of like man, I lost my train of thought, but oh, right, specific inspiration for these characters. I guess I can't think. I feel like most of it is subconscious, but a lot of it too is like in my own life where I've done things that I thought were like the right thing to do, but from other people's perspectives, it's like, why would you do this? This is not cool. This is not cool, man. So I was like, oh shoot, you're right. Maybe I should have thought about it this way, or maybe I'd be upset over that and just think like, why would they say this? And that big question of why kind of stuck with me, and that's kind of what I like to do with a lot of characters is kind of pose that question. Why does this character do this? Why do they feel this way? Why do they do that? And so I guess like I'm not saying I am the inspiration for Mr. P and Willow because as far as I know, I haven't committed arson or robbery or theft or anything like that. I'm just saying like that whole that whole like I feel everybody is morally gray to some extent. Like we might perceive things as good, whereas someone else maybe across the world might think that's completely wrong and that's upside down. And I think that's always an interesting thing to kind of visit with characters. So I would recommend doing that. Finding reasons for why characters act that way, and maybe exploring that in your story somehow. Either it being like at forefront of it if it's an important character, or maybe through like secrets or notes or diaries, or what if it's a secondary character. So
Yeah, I really like how you dived into that analysis because I thought that was pretty cool.
thanks, thank you.
All right, our next question is, how do life experiences influence the way you write stories?
Ooh. I mean, live experiences have everything to do with writing stories. I mean, every like there's so many books out there and so many people with all sorts of different ideas. Wait, by live experiences, do we mean like life experiences? Or
Yeah, like your own
oh,
experience.
okay, yeah. Yeah. Because like the way you were brought up and the things you've learned along the way are inevitably going to show through your work somehow, one way or another. And it's kind of a difficult question because I feel like I'd have to do like a sort of deep dive analysis on it. Because I'm not like I feel like the reason why Piggy has like those morally gray characters are due to my own experiences, right? with um with connecting with other characters who are like maybe villains, but they have good reasons for being a villain, or something like that, through the media I've consumed, or just like I said earlier, through my own experiences of where I was in the right for doing something, but someone else saw me doing the wrong thing. And I think exploring that. Another thing to actually, like this is more of a specific example, is seeing how divided people are today over all sorts of issues. And I feel like most, if not all, arguments are brought up due to a misunderstanding or miscommunication in some form. And I feel like with Piggy, I'm trying to show that there's always another side to every coin. There's always a different side to every story, and it's important to keep that in mind while you're having discussions with people, rather than just attacking them or invalidating their feelings or whatever. Because everyone has a reason for why they're saying these things and why they're doing the things that they do, and seeing that's very important. So it's kind of the message that I'm going for in Piggies. Like I said, don't judge a book by its cover, and seek answers for yourself, rather than just hearing it through a long game of telephone. So yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's a great answer. For our next question, we have, how do you incorporate emotion into your story? For example, if a character passes away in the story, how do you actually effectively make the player sad?
Ooh, well, that that's pretty sad. Sounds like someone's trying to ruin people's days. Um, I honestly, I think it's important to be very respectful of it, because a lot of people who are going to be playing these games have probably, most likely, probably like suffered some loss in some sort of way. It doesn't have to be necessarily someone dying, but maybe like losing their favorite toy as a kid or something, and feeling that sinking feeling. But what I've realized is, if you want to make a big impact, I kind of visualize a story's emotion like as a roller coaster. It's got its
Mhm.
highs, it's got its lows. If you really want to make things sad, what you do is develop this character as much as possible, and then make it super happy and everything is really happy, and then out of nowhere just have like a sudden drop in emotion and just take them out. That's it. And yeah, after like just imagine you're having a great time with your best friend Tom, and then all of a sudden he eats your pizza right in front of you that you were saving all week. It's been in the fridge
Wow.
for a week. It probably wasn't good anymore, but he takes it like right then. You're having a great time, like, oh, right in the feels. So again, yeah, just develop the character a lot, make things as happy as possible, um and make it a compassionate, like a character that the players can actually connect to. Like if the jerk, they're not going to feel as sad about it. So I'm just teaching you guys how to ruin everyone's day. I'm sorry. I
Oh
don't
no.
listen to this. Don't listen to this.
Oh man. All right, the next question is, what happens when a game that has a storyline, but it doesn't really have any inspiration or movement or emotions or feelings, but it's still a general normal storyline?
That's fine. That's fine. Honestly, like if it doesn't have to have a super complicated one. Like if we talk about the match 3 game, I mean, like the generic match 3 game is literally just matching 3 symbols. Adding a story makes it a lot more engaging. Like people are gonna want to know, like out of let's say if 10 people play it, even if just one person continues playing for the story, that's still one person playing just for the story, just to find out what happens next. So it doesn't have to be super complicated. It doesn't have to be super emotional. It can be as simple as like rescuing someone, or like the
Mhm.
examples I listed, like solving a crime. It doesn't have to be super complicated. It can be super basic, and either way, some people, it's going to attract some people and engage a lot of players just based on the fact that there is a story, and they're going to want to know what happens next, how it like unfolds. So
Yeah. And the next question is, as the storyteller, would you rather write the full story before creating the game or doing the story while creating this game and changing it up based off of the community?
no. Well, both ways are pretty fun. However, what I did, so for one, it was a little bit of the second option. I'd see
Mhm.
piggy like theories pop up and be like, oh, that's a good thing I can just add without anyone knowing. I won't name examples so you guys can't call me out for it. You don't know which ones I'm talking about. But but I think both ways are good. I would recommend writing the full story, and then there's some changes, like writing the full story, and if you're releasing it in a periodic way, like the way I did it with chapters, if people come up with theories that work in better for your story, there's no shame in taking it. Just take it. Make them happy, make their day. They'll be happy to know that they were right with their theories. So
Mhm.
um I guess it depends. Like if you're releasing the whole game as a full story, it's kind of I guess you couldn't really leave it, the other one. Never mind, never mind. But yeah, I would recommend writing a full story. It doesn't have to be super thorough if you're writing, if like it's being released in parts, because don't restrict yourself to what you've written. Be open to make changes, and if like community comes up with really good ideas, or if you just come up with better ideas along the road, there's no shame changing it. Have fun with it. It's your
Mhm.
story, your decisions, your rules, so you do whatever you want. So
Yeah. And at what point, or if there is a point, does a story overpower game mechanics?
at what point does a story overpower game mechanics? Ooh, that's a tough question. Story overtaking game mechanics. I don't fully understand that question, what it means, but I can try to come up with an answer in my brain. I
Mhm.
guess if it's that's tough, because there's lots of games where like storytelling is the most important thing, where like story is the game mechanic, I guess.
Mhm.
Like for example, I brought up the example during my presentation of Telltale games, where like it's mostly just story, and you make decisions to kind of guide the story in different ways, and like most of the gameplay is just making those decisions. I think storytelling can't really overtake gameplay unless there's like no gameplay at all. If there really is no player input at all, I think that's kind of, you're just watching a movie at that point.
Yeah.
So I think that's what it is. But like you can go really close to movie, and like blurring the line between movie and game with just having decisions that impact the story. Because at that point, it's still a game. Like you're still playing it and making active choices in it to drive the story different ways. So I think yeah, if it's more of a movie than a game, like if there's no player input, that's probably where I would draw the line and just call it a movie. So
Yeah. And the next question is, from a secret narrative, which elements would you use? Can you use secret codes or puzzles, or is it too frustrating for the players to engage with them?
all of them, all of them. It really depends on how secret they are. Like if it's something like this pixel over here, and then walk in circles like 600 times to have something appear.
Mhm.
Um, I know I have definitely made convoluted puzzles in the past, and if you guys have played Piggy or followed its history, you guys definitely know which ones I'm talking about. But the more it makes sense, the better it is. Like for example, discovering a hidden room, like if you find a hidden code or something, and then it opens a hidden room with like some notes in there, like that's a good thing. Puzzles are great. I think puzzles are better to do than notes because they engage the player even more than just, instead of reading, you have to do something. Like, you have to actually physically do something in the game, and then you get to, read something or discover something or like, whatever. So I think puzzles are more engaging, but it really depends on how you want to do it. There's no rules for this. Just have fun. And other people are having fun doing it as well. So
Yeah. And what would
don't
you
do a
say
run
is
around 600 times in circles to solve.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. All right, the next question is, what is the best way to connect characters to the players, and how should that relationship work within the story?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I mean, I guess it really depends on, like, what I would do is you write a character that connects to you personally, or like maybe one that like base your some characters off friends or family members or thing. Um, I think the best way though, if you really want to make a character, relatable, is to make them relate to you. Although it may not be like a cookie cutter, everyone can relate to this character because that's how it will always be. Not everyone can relate to every single character. It'll at least be relatable to some people who will find like common traits for this character that you have with this character as well. And I think that can definitely. I think how this can affect stories. Sorry, could you repeat the last part? I just want to make sure that I'm answering right.
Yeah, it was how should relationships work within the story?
Oh, okay. So like the relationships between characters. Um, I mean, like I said, there's no rules for these types of things. Well, I didn't
Mhm,
say this for this, I said for the puzzles and secrets, but there's no like rules. You can kind of make it's your project. You can do whatever you want with it. Um, but like trying to make it make as much sense as possible would be great. Like, for example, if a guy is a super villain, yeah, I'm super evil, and then there's like the sweetest character ever, like the most kind who could not align her ideals, or doesn't seem like they would be the type of friend that super evil man would have, then obviously there would be no relationship there. Their relationship would be like um enemies, so
mhm,
as long as it makes sense, or you can kind of explain it in a way like maybe they're siblings and they have to kind of be associated with each other, but they don't like each other. Like, there's all these little layers to it. It really depends on their connections between each other, their connections to other characters around them, to their friends, their family, all that stuff. All plays different roles in it. But you can have fun with it if you want super villain man to be best friends with the quiet, calm, super kind-hearted person. Then go for it. I would just like do my best to try and find a way to make that connection make sense. Like, explain why they are, their besties. So
Yeah, and this is kinda diving more into just before creating the story. So when you have a story laid out, how do you acquire funding or support to create the setting and other elements within the story?
I didn't acquire any funding for Piggy. I just kind of made it for fun on Roblox. 'Cause thankfully Roblox is a free platform, and you guys can also make games um without without having to worry about funding them. There's plenty of guides out there, lots of tutorials on all sorts of pages made by Roblox themselves or the community. Uh, Definitely lots of resources. And if you're wondering how you can make money, if you're like, if you need a job or something, you need money to stay afloat or whatever, I can't answer that. That's out of the scope of this presentation. So, but yeah, best of luck with that. I would recommend trying to learn everything yourself if you can't afford developers like builders, scripters. I would recommend just giving it a shot because it's not as hard as it seems. Um, I know, like, for example, in the presentation, I learned through free models. There's definitely better ways of doing that because you kind of learn some good and bad habits of other creators. So just find out some resources, or learn from some of the resources out there, and try doing it all yourself. And if it's too much, then maybe try bringing some friends on board. Um,
Mhm.
and coming up with some deals that way. I don't want you guys to take advice from me or whatever, but
All
I
right.
got
No,
twelve
that was
dollars. That's all I got. No, I'm kidding.
only $12. Ugh, that's all you
Only
need
twelve
though, so
dollars.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Help
Does you
me.
All right. The next question is, does using first person or third person perspective allow the player to get deeper into a situation or into the story?
That's really tough because there's some immersive games in third and first. I don't think it really matters. I think it depends on how well you employ it. Like for example, a game I loved growing up is like a Half Life, and it's
Mm,
strictly first person. Like there's no cutscenes that take you out, and it kind of makes you feel like you're that character in those shoes a lot. However, there's also situations where in third person you may also feel the same way depending on the story. So I think it depends less about the camera point of view than it just I don't think the camera point of view really matters that much. I think the story itself matters, or the environment, or whatever. Yeah, yeah. But honestly, if I'm speaking from my own experience, I find that in first person, so it's a little spookier if you're doing a horror game, because you don't have like a funny looking character, or if your avatar is a fucking one, or if it's a cute one, or whatever. You don't have that kind of character to make you feel like you're not alone to look at when you're walking around in those spaces. So but of course there's always the exceptions, like Resident Evil games are third person. Some of them, most of them are third person, and they're still terrifying. So I don't know, just like I guess just experiment with it and see what works best with your game and its mechanics, as opposed to the story itself. That would be tied more to gameplay than to story, I think.
gotcha. And were there times where you had to change the plot of the story? If so, what were the reasons? And is it recommended to change the storyline if the newer version may be better?
Yeah, it would be recommended to like retroactively change the storyline. I don't know. That really depends on what your community would think of that and whatnot. But if it's like if someone has read this story or like learned this piece of lore, and like go ahead and change it, if it works better, absolutely 100%. I know I've changed some story in the past to make things make more sense, because like previously when you would escape like the first three maps, there would be no cutscene. It would just be, you escaped, congratulations, here's your money, bye. But then I decided to add some cutscenes because I could, there was room for improvement, like 100% guaranteed improvement there if I added a little bit of story. So in those cases where it's like it's not sacrificing anything else, then go for it. I would highly recommend it. And I forgot the first part of the question. My bad.
It was, were there times where you had to change the plot of the story?
Oh yeah, well there you go. There's one right
Yeah,
there.
you answered it
So
perfectly. Yeah.
perfect. Yeah, awesome.
All right, we have time for two more questions. So this question is, how long did you think about the level design and balancing? I love to know more since I fail at this most of the time.
It like once again, this really depends. This is more gameplay wise than storytelling. But for me, what worked best was like for my game to make it flow a lot better was not a lot of dead ends, because in horror games, dead ends are super frustrating. They feel just really unfair when you're just going around a corner. It's like, oh well, I guess I have no choice but to die unless you can juke the monster. But if you can't, then you know it's not a good feeling. Another thing that I try to incorporate in level design in my levels are, I try to make every area feel unique or different in some way. Maybe it's a wall color, maybe it's a design, or the floor, or the ceiling, or something like that. Some small little things to make it feel different, so that they never really feel lost, like they're just walking through this place over and over and over again. Like all those little visual elements will definitely help them have a better experience with your game than it just all looking the same and just being a large maze. So,
Yeah,
but yeah, that's what I would recommend. So.
yeah. And for our very last question, this user asked, are you ever going to make a series, movie, or book for Piggy? I think it'd be a really cool way to see the story this way.
There's plenty of books out there already for Piggy, actually. You can go check them out, with some more coming out on the way. But as for a TV series and movie, if any studios out there are interested, I'm open. I'm right here. I'm right here. Uh, as long as it's not live action. If it's live action, that'll probably terrify everybody, including myself. So.
Yeah, a live action Piggy would be, I think I would be absolutely terrified for sure. Just like,
But yeah, I think we would be terrified, but for different reasons.
yeah. Oh man. But thank you so much for coming here today to talk about
Thank
storytelling.
you.
for taking the time out of your day, and I hope this was a lot of fun for you, as I'm sure everyone else had fun as well.
Yeah, it was lots of fun. It
Oh,
was great. It was
the
fantastic.
second jump scare right there.
Do I get anyone else a second time? Let me know after
I'm
this
so
talk.
certain that you
Oh,
did, because you definitely got me.
oh,
I was like, "MiniToon."
sweet.
And
Alrighty.
if
Well, thank you all so much for listening to me ramble for however long I rambled, and thank you so much you at Roblox, Joodles, and everyone else to allow me to actually speak and ramble on and yeah, I appreciate it so much. Thanks for giving me the time.
Yeah, of course. And if you guys want to check out MiniToon's workshop, we have it live streamed on YouTube. So it'll be on our Roblox Level Up YouTube channel. So if you guys are like, oh, I remember MiniToon talking about this, but I don't remember what it is, you guys can go back to that video and check it out as well. And also coming within a little over an hour at 11 a.m. PDT, we have our next workshop, which is efficiently running large numbers of NPC AI. So please go check that out. So stick around and have fun. I will see you guys later. Thank
Check out the
you.
next workshop, guys. Bye.
Bye.